Hello, in this video we will continue studying how to use SimView to take measurements from our simulations. In this particular case, I'm going to show you how to use the measuring tools to obtain values such as the RMS value of a waveform, the power, and the power factor between two different signals. We can access the measure window through this toolbar, or we can call it by the measure menu item. This window will show up, as you can see, has two x values and the delta. The x values are linked to these vertical lines. We call these cursors. The cursors can be moved by dragging them. There are two, 1 and 2. When the cursor is active, you can see that it's highlighted compared to the other one. As we move the cursor, it will show us in the measure window the value where the cursor crosses the signal. Horizontal cursor 1 is linked to vertical cursor 1. If I drag cursor 1, you can see that the horizontal cursor moves along with it. If I drag cursor 2, you will see that it also tracks the signal with cursor number 2. To use maximum or minimum detection, select the cursor you will be using for the measurement, and then through these buttons or the menu interface in the measure window, you can select which value you want to detect. So for example, if we want to find the next maximum value, and the active cursor will move to the next maximum value. However, there is a caveat to this tool. If I now select cursor number 2 and I do the same, you will notice that the cursor number 2 moves to times a random position. And that's not a good thing, because it actually should have detected some of the peaks that were near to it. We first identify the peak to which we want to move our cursor. And first, we move the cursor number 1 next to that peak. Let's say this is the peak. I want to put cursor number 2. I move cursor number 1 to the peak before it. And if I do detect maximum value, cursor number 1 will move to that particular peak. But now if I click on cursor number 2 and I pick detect next maximum value, it will move to the next maximum value of the next maximum value to which cursor number 1 has moved. Now if I want to measure the time difference in between these, and let's say this peak here, I can now move cursor number 1 to the proximity of that peak and click detect next maximum value. That way, now I have the time difference reflected in the delta column for these two cursor locations. I can also lock the cursors and move them in unison, which in some cases might be very useful. We can also find directly from these plots different properties of the signal. For example, the RMS value will show up this column here that shows us what is the RMS value. And this is exactly the same that we measure by using the AC instrument. So AC for E1 will show us that this is indeed the RMS value that we can also compute from the waveform. Another value we can measure is the power and power factor. To measure power and power factor, we need to select a voltage and a current that are related. So in this case, I'm going to select the phase voltage and the phase current. When we do that, we can click on P to compute the power, and we can click on PF to compute the power factor. As you can see, the power factor and the power for these two signals are basically the same as if we use the AC metering functions. So for example, if I add a second screen and I plot on those screen power, to plot power, I need to use the RMS voltage for the phase, and I can now use this formula, multiply by the phase current, and if I add that formula and I compute that value, you will see that x1 is 9.99, which is equivalent to the power of those two signals. So we can either use effective values to measure power, or we can use the direct computation from the two signals on one of the screens and these metering functions. And that is all you need to know about how to use the metering window.